All right, moving on in our chapter on variability. The next section for us, your authors called it transformations of a scale. I wrote characteristics up here because it's the same conversation in many ways as what we had in chapter 3. We talked about the 4 characteristics of the mean. What happens if you change a score? What happens if you put in a new score or take out a score or add constants or divide by constants, those sorts of things. Same conversation, but in this chapter they're calling it transformations. So I'm just writing characteristics so you can connect them because you very much need to connect them. The idea here is what happens to variability if you add a constant to every score or subtract or multiply or divide. So we just have 2 here to talk about. So let's get some scores up here. Oh, let's make it just slightly different. Get another easy, nice little set of 5 scores. The mean is 5. And let's look at the first transformation, the first characteristic. What happens if we add or subtract a constant value to every raw score? We know that if we add 10 points to every raw score, the mean goes up by 10. We know if we subtract 50 from every raw score, the mean goes down by 50. Right? So whatever you do to every score affects the mean. So what about variability? Now we're going to make this easy so we don't have to calculate variance or standard deviation. Let's just do range. Simple subtraction, because it works. It's true for all variability. So we'll go with the easy one to compute. Well, what's the range of this data that we've got? 7 is our high, 3 is our low, so our range is 4. I don't think I mentioned earlier, but just like median and mode, there's really not a symbol we use for range other than the word range. Now, let's add a constant score, or I'm sorry, constant value to every score. Let's go ahead and add 20. So 7 goes up to 27, 26, 25, 24, 23. And the question remains, what is the range? Well, the highest score is 27. The lowest score is 23. 27 minus 23 is 4. Oh, so that's different than the mean. So if we added 20 points to every score, the mean would go up by 20 points. But variability is unchanged. Imagine that these are numbers on a number line. And so we had it from 3 to 7. Right? So there was a 4-point spread, a range of 4 points. And we added 20 to everything. Well, what we didn't do was spread them out from each other. We just took the whole set of scores and moved them up as a unit, 20 points. They're not further apart. They're not closer together. They're still a range of 4 points apart from each other. So adding a constant value to every score will change the mean, but will not change variability. Not range, not variance, not standard deviation. No difference. The distances between scores are still the same. And of course, the same for subtracting. Now, what about the other side of this? What if we multiply or divide? Well, let's go ahead and just multiply everything by 2. Keep the math part simple. So doubling 7 to 14, 6 becomes 12, 5 becomes 10, 4 becomes 8, 3 becomes 6. So our highest score is now 14 after we've multiplied everything by 2. Our lowest score is now 6. The range now is 8. So if you multiply every score by a constant, you really are making them further apart. You really are enhancing those distances between them, augmenting those distances. Likewise, if we divided, we would be collapsing. The range would get smaller. So if you add or subtract a constant to every raw score, the mean changes, but variability does not. If you multiply or divide every score by a constant, the mean changes and variability changes. So there's just one little exception to this pattern, which is this one right here. That's the one that's the exception to the rule, if you will. So the general rule is whatever you do to every score affects the mean and variability, except variability if we're adding or subtracting the constant. So that's the analog from chapters 3 and 4. Make sure you keep them straight. It's important to be able to know which rules apply to the mean and which rules apply to variability. And again, for repetition, variability, we did this with range, but all variability, it's all the same. So variance, we could have done this with variance and taken longer to get to the same conclusion, or standard deviation, but we've come up with the same results in the end there. Okay, so we have really just one section left to cover in this course that's going to be particularly important for us down the road, and a seed I'm going to plant here today. So we'll get a fresh video started for that one.